Today's guest is Mike Dixon, a leader who built teams where performance actually matters. Mike spent over a decade in the US military, specifically in Army. Then he transitioned into a corporate world, earning his MBA and working inside the organizations like IBM before he stepped into entrepreneurship world. He's currently a president of Hoops, where he helps companies build and protect winning teams by combining leadership, talent strategy, and AI. If you care about the entrepreneurship, leadership, and how AI changing the future of any leader, you're going to get a lot of this out of this conversation. Enjoy. Mike, welcome to the podcast. Been really looking forward for this conversation. And before we actually start with this podcast, can you give audience who's Mike Dixon?
Absolutely, Sandra. Thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. So I am a person who's had a very interesting background, but a lifetime spent helping find the right people, put them together on a team and build those teams to outperform. And I've done that in my early days in the military. I've done that in the corporate sector, and now I'm doing it in a more entrepreneurial and AI-driven approach through our Hoops platform.
And you're a former soldier, served this amazing country that we sincerely appreciate you tremendously for.
Oh, thank you. It was all mine. I would have paid to have done that. I would absolutely do it again. It was some of the best training development experiences ever.
Beautiful country to be in. Absolutely. You mentioned your background in the military, right? And how that prepared you for the entrepreneurial journey.
Mm-hmm.
Do you mind expanding on key leadership lessons you've learned in the military that essentially translated to building successful teams in the business world?
Yes. Okay, so 3 really big leadership lessons I took away from the military that have helped out so much in the entrepreneurial world. Number 1 is the ability to work with people from all different kinds of backgrounds and cultures to come together quickly to achieve a common goal. So one of the most beautiful things about the U.S. Army was it brings together people from all walks of life. You know, folks who grew up in the country, folks who grew up in the city, immigrants, wealthy kids, all these different people from all these different backgrounds thrown together and learning how, and then there's all different ranks, there's technical specialties. You get people loaned out to you for certain missions and objectives. You work with members of other services, you work with foreign militaries. And learning how to quickly pull people together from all these different backgrounds and experiences to achieve a common goal, immediate applicability to the entrepreneurial space. So that's the first lesson. I'm grateful for that. I'll always carry that with me. The second one is the ability to work independently. And it's a little bit of that idea of Lewis and Clark, the folks that discovered the American West, the 2 explorers, who are actually soldiers, which is kind of cool. But when you think about that, is that idea that you've been trained up, you're going to be sent out on a mission, and you may be out of communication with people for a while, or you maybe have limited communication. So in my early days, being sent out to do reconnaissance on the remote borders of Kosovo with Serbia, working independently with very small teams doing that and knowing, hey, we're way out here on our own. Later in Iraq, living out with the Iraqis, not on a big U.S. base, my own little outpost with my people. There's tremendous independence in that, but also tremendous accountability. So you are ultimately responsible for that team and what's done, and more importantly, what you fail to do. So that independent leadership aspect early on, incredibly valuable. The last piece is operating with doctrine and a set of frameworks to get things done. So one thing that happened to me in the Army, I had the opportunity to create a new unit from scratch. So I was given an empty set of offices in a building.
Wow.
And they would funnel some people to me, and then I had to go out and try and get equipment and, convince people to join my unit. But essentially it was a startup unit. So I built this organization of about 150 people to go take on a deployment on the other side of the world, to basically take them from Savannah, Georgia to Baghdad, Iraq.
And we talking, forgive me for interrupting, because I want to really, we talking a unit that you had to structure individuals,
Mhm.
communicate what's their role, and keep them accountable to their role, making sure they're trained and ready to execute their role. I mean, no different than starting a business.
Yeah, the only thing I didn't have to worry about was making payroll, but, you know,
Somebody was paying them already. I see. I
and
see.
somebody was paying them already. That was good. But, yeah, but we had a very aggressive training table that we had to create and staff and get folks through. It's, you have to figure out quickly problems such as, I don't have vehicles yet. How do I get my people out to the ranges to train?
That's
You know,
incredible. I did not even know that that's what entails when you are high ranked in the military.
I wasn't a high rank. It was a relatively lower level. I was a captain at the time. And it was the nature of the Army at the time kind of expanding and changing, organizational change and design. But that was a very, very powerful lesson about how to start something up and how to take it through to completion.
What happens when you, because what happens when you move up in the ranks? I assume there's just different sets of leadership skills that you develop that can eventually help you to operate on that CEO level in the corporate world, on a business world.
To a large extent, yes. I think what you learn as you move up in the ranks in the Army, particularly in the role I was in infantry units and then later kind of teaching and being an administrator at West Point is the higher you go, the more levels you have underneath you, the less you're leading by, direct authority or direct leadership, and the more you're leading by influence. So you are going to create an intent for your organization and you're going to push that intent downward. And that intent is not, this is what you do in these exact set of circumstances. It's, here's what I want you to get done. It's going to be up to you to figure out how to do it. And that leader's intent is a really, really important thing because you can't micromanage all your people all the time, especially as your organization gets larger. So you've got to teach them, hey, what am I thinking and how do I put a little bit of that thought leadership into their heads so they can carry with them? Because as we all know, in business, in military, and life in general, situations change unexpectedly. There's not an SOP or process document for everything. So you've got to be able to think on the fly. And that's where that intent is really, really powerful.
That explains to me a lot why a lot of companies like to hire individuals that have some kind of veteran background.
Yeah, I think it's true. Now, I think it's, to be fair, is a lot of veterans, and I was no exception. They need to learn about business and how much things cost.
Sure.
You know, That's a big kicker. We were talking about, I didn't have to worry about making payroll. Hey, that's a big consideration. For most organizations, payroll is the number one expense. So, on the veteran side is understanding what are those key business drivers out there. How do I understand what a P&L is? How do I understand what my three financial statements are? And how, more importantly, what levers do I need to pull to be successful with those?
If an entrepreneur starts a business or a CEO runs a successful or even a startup business, what would you say some of the critical skills that they need to develop like now?
Yeah. I think there's a couple universals I'd put out. Some things vary by industry, right? There's certain things that are industry specific that you absolutely need to understand. But at the top of the funnel of kind of behaviors I'd say are really important is number one is that idea that positivity and confidence are contagious and that you have to bring that as a leader. Because if you don't have that, nobody else will. But at the same time, negativity, that's contagious. So you can either inject the negativity flu into the organization or you can inject optimism into the organization. So that's important. Right from the get-go, you've got to have that. You're going to have that to talk to investors. You're going to have that to talk to clients. Your employees need that from you. All your stakeholders need that. Moving further, into what's needed, another piece is leadership, is understanding there's a certain set of leadership behaviors that you need to do. You've got to start by managing yourself, then you've got to manage successfully interpersonal relationships, and you've got to manage your team. So it's self, others, team. And thinking about that in terms of how am I setting goals for people? How am I holding people accountable? How am I giving feedback on the behaviors that I'm seeing from them that are leading to successful completion of their goals? or are holding them back
Hmm.
without personally attacking somebody? How do I learn to criticize in private and praise in public? And we can say these things, but in the moment they get lost. And then realizing as the leader, especially in a startup or small entrepreneurial organization, you're going to have to wear a lot of hats, and your prior lives, your prior subject matter expertise doesn't necessarily apply to some of these situations. So that last piece I'd say of kind of the universals is bringing a learning orientation, being willing to say, I don't know, but I'm going to find out, and having that perseverance, that persistence to grab hold of the topic and learn as quickly and as deeply as you possibly can, and
Hmm.
then apply that knowledge to team success.
Wow. Listening to your background for somebody who accomplished so much and developed so many incredible skills, how is AI is challenging you personally?
Yeah. So right before we get into that, I back up and say the same for you, because it's always fascinating to me to meet people who have really fought to come here from other places and then been successful here. So I love that. And I love that. Thank you. Appreciate your, you know, compliments on the background. I would say the same of you, Sanjar.
Thank you.
With I think about a year and a half, 2 years ago, as I started playing with early versions of AI, the light bulb went off that this tool was going to be absolute rocket fuel if you could wrap your head around it. So going in and starting that learning, so much good learning on X, by the way, uh, and just reading about AI, watching people use it and saying, okay, what are the different use cases? How do I use this beyond just finding a recipe for dinner on the weekend? But even that's valuable because you start to realize how powerful this thing is.
That's factual. It's
Yeah,
factual.
yeah. Get some good recipes out of Grok. It's tell them to act like a chef. But
I love because I did it.
yep,
I'm
you did it
guilty.
too. Yeah,
Oh, make me even tear up here.
yep.
That's funny.
But as you dig into it, you look at business, the first thing you've got to, you go back to, you say, okay, what do I not know here? And how is AI different historically from machine learning? And what's the dynamism that it brings into, applications in business? And then also being able to realize, having testing it in areas that you think you have subject matter expertise, you're like, okay, clearly it's hallucinating here. But as you get into it, identifying those areas where you can accelerate skills in your day job to give you a competitive advantage, to help close deals faster, to help deliver to clients faster, to help give you insights on market. So if you think about what we do at Hoops, before we go to market with a job for a client, we're running an AI driven market review with our tools to be able to say, okay, what should you be offering salary wise to this client? What sort of benefits are competitive? Who are they competing against in the marketplace? What are the unique talent challenges of a given geography? These are really important questions, and we can answer these now with a degree of data and speed that we've never had before. Even not in some companies are still doing this, but we used to buy in HR these big books of compensation data, or this big online PDF, spreadsheets and PowerPoint slides. And this is what you pay for a given, and these would be based off compensation studies. By the time you got them, they were 6 months out of date, sometimes longer. And you paid the large fees for these comp studies every year. You can have all that now,
That's crazy.
and it's through AI.
Yeah, literally seconds.
More interestingly, as you get into this and you can take data sets and you can draw conclusions at an incredibly low cost, almost instantaneously,
Hmm.
and you can start to do really powerful things like say, hey, based off the talent market, I think I should locate my new accounting office in this city, or I think I should expand my plumbing business here versus there. And these are really powerful things. Small business, some big corporations are using AI, and they're having some success. But small businesses are going to see incredible either success with this, or they're going to get left behind if they don't
Use it.
get some of this rocket fuel to apply to what they're doing. Because if you're willing to bring it in and you're willing to be thoughtful in your prompting, you can create competitive advantage, at least right now. Is that a long-term thing? Are the costs scalable? There's so many questions to answer, but I really think it's stepping back and saying, what is it that I do? How do I create value? And then the areas that I don't create value, how can I automate that away to AI? What should I not be doing? So it's doing a little keep, start, stop as a leader and say, hey, what do I need to keep doing that I can augment with AI? What do I need to start doing that I'm not doing that AI could help with? And then what do I need to stop doing and automate it away?
I feel like when internet launched, you see so many social media bloggers or content creators making millions of dollars in just like most rural areas in the
Hmm.
world. I feel like that's what AI is doing for small businesses. It's giving you a platform to access the content creation or the job type that you can execute by versus hiring somebody for 50, $60,000 a year for 20 bucks a month using an AI tool. And yes, if you know how to use it, you can position yourself to become a very successful in the next 5 years.
It does. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I think what's interesting is you
Yeah.
now have big compute power in the hands of a lot of people if they want to choose to pick it up.
Yeah. Right.
And we've seen that, right? So many web-enabled businesses came out over the last 10 to 15 years. And Amazon and others, cloud computing brought the basic cost of computing now. Now we're seeing the incredible availability of data sets, analytics, and automation at a scale and a speed we've never seen before in human history.
Yeah.
There's tremendous power with that. There's also, to be fair, there's tremendous risk in that too. We're looking at a world now where hackers can be powered by AI. And so I think it's recognizing all of that and thoughtfully looking at it. Now, there is one area I think that's going to become more important than ever that you have live human interaction, and that is going to be the high trust, relationship based series of transactions that underpin a lot of businesses. So sales is going to be AI enabled, but I think we as human beings are going to want to know that there's a live human being on the other end of the transaction. I'm
I think
not
that's
sure that AI driven sales avatars are going to be as successful as people think.
we don't know yet, right? At least at this point, it's not. With the way technology is changing, I won't be surprised if it's possible in the future, right? As an entrepreneur who has navigated both large corporate environments and startup world, what advice would you give someone looking to make a transition from a job to starting their own business?
Years ago, I was in grad school at NYU, and I heard a lecturer, or we had a guest speaker, and he was a really successful entrepreneur who had been an investment banker for a while. And he said something interesting. He's like, when you look at the data, the most successful entrepreneurs are generally in their late 30s all the way through their 50s,
No kidding.
which really stands things on the heads of what we think of in terms of startups, and you got to be in Silicon Valley. There's no doubt that's a high success ecosystem and that's a crucible for startups. But there's a lot of folks out there that have a good idea and they just need to start doing it.
Oh,
As the kids would say, you can just do stuff. And I think that's a really important thing for entrepreneurs, potential entrepreneurs to understand is I don't encourage you to leave your W and jump feet first into, an entrepreneurial life without really contemplating that. But it's not a binary situation where it's either or. You can set something up on the side, you can start to scale it, test out some concepts and some ideas, monetize it, and then make the transition. I encourage people to start on that and just say, hey, what could I do? What problem could I solve? Then how can I monetize it? And then how can I think about scaling it into something full time?
two things coming in my mind. One is John Maxwell. He's a guru on leadership. He talks
Yeah.
about how do you write a book? You start to write a
Start
book.
writing a book. Yeah.
Writing a book, right? Like start a business, right? Start something. Second thing, I'm reading a book right now called Hidden Potential by Adam. I forgot his last name. In one of his chapters, he said 32 employees that have a side hustle are so much more productive at work, their day job, than the ones they don't.
Yeah.
And it's because of the fact that they are constantly in that creative mode of seeking. They're always learning new things. Like Tony Robbins said, are you challenging yourself? Like, how are you challenging yourself? You have this great job or great business. What are you doing today to challenge yourself? And I feel like, to your point, right, that just don't leave your W-2, like find a way how to challenge yourself in your industry. AI is a good one, right? It's just going to make you so much more valuable for your company, A, but who knows? Maybe you will have a large business in the future.
I think that is so right. And I think it's also perspective of, and you probably have a really interesting perspective on this because you've straddled two worlds, right? I think a lot of folks are waiting for permission to do things. They're like, if I just get this certificate, if I just do this degree, this internship, whatever. And at some point, you just have to try the thing. You may fail. I had several kind of attempts at doing different things that for one reason or another, I pulled the plug on them or they just didn't work or the timing wasn't right, etc. But you're going to have some of those things. You just need to get out there and start trying the thing. And I also think with AI, wow, you've got this kind of built-in consultant where you can bounce some ideas off. You can get marketing ideas. You can do so many things that would have taken you a much longer time to research and put together. It's like, hey, the barrier to entry now is far lower than it's been, and you
Mhm.
can reduce your time to success.
That's right. Yeah, and the knowledge that you can accumulate that can make you more dangerous,
Yeah,
so much
absolutely.
faster. Yeah.
Absolutely. The last thing too, I'd say to folks who are considering it, who are in a W-2 right now is I'm hearing and seeing in the recruiting market so much insecurity in the corporate job space.
No kidding.
Folks aren't sure. They're afraid to leave their job because they're worried about getting something else. It's concerns about, does my company really care about me? You know, is my big corporate job safe in this era of AI? And you know what? Hey, you can write your own insurance policy. So I encourage folks to look at that because even if you don't think it's going to be a full-time job, it's nice to have an income stream on the side that's separate from your W.
It's only going to make you more valuable at your job, right? Once you
Yeah.
develop better skills. I'm such a big believer in that. Speaking of the executives that AI is disrupting the industry, right? Particularly in displacing certain middle management roles.
hmm
How can business leaders proactively prepare their teams and organizations for this shift? And what new skills will be required leaders in the AI powered future?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that business leaders have to do is in their organizations, they need to create spaces where people can use AI now. And
Hmm.
they need to be very clear. They need to push a degree of decentralization to the point of discomfort. There's a number of large organizations and some I've been in that said, look, you're just not allowed to use AI for your day job. It's like, okay, that defies logic. People are out there doing it anyway. If you don't give them a secure space to do it, they're going to go cut and paste into their AI. So it's one of those ridiculous kind of things. But you've got to put in a big company, you've got to put sandboxes out there, safeguards, and let them go do it. In a smaller organization where you have more freedom, man, push them. If somebody's coming to you with a problem, you need to ask in your one-to-ones, hey, have you looked at this using the quality AI tool? Instead of making a hire, could we replace it with an agent? Could we expand this person's productivity with more AI tools? You know?
And that goes to the point of become more valuable, right? So if you're concerned about being replaced,
Yeah,
become more valuable. I was recording a podcast with an entrepreneur who built a mega real estate empire. He said, AI is a great exposing tool. If you're lazy, it can expose it. If you're motivated, it will bring so much value.
I love that. I'm going to steal that.
I I should have.
I think that's absolutely true. I think yeah, I think that's it. That is it. Yeah. I mean, if you are intellectually curious and you want to be more productive, no better tool that I've seen right now.
If you start over today, based on everything you know, Mike, your experience, whether it's
Mm,
starting a business or becoming a dangerous C-level executive in the future, provide for your family, doing something different.
yeah.
What would Mike Dixon do today?
That's a great question. I think what I would want to do is differently today is I'd still want to work on leadership teams and building teams, but I might want to do something around how do we build better bonds in society and particularly help men get together and take chances and build bonds and develop good friendships and communities. So that's kind of top of mind for me lately. I think we're missing an element of that. And I would love to see people make more friends in person. Love to see people get together more often, and just share interests and be together in person and get off screens and devices as recreation.
Men leading families and what makes this country unique and strong, and a nation's determined by based on how many families are on the same page. And I feel what you just mentioned is a very critical piece for men to develop.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great observation. I just think there's a lot of men, man, they don't have anybody to kind of have a real friendship
That's
with
right.
and or pursue their activities together. And so, yeah, there's something there. That's for the next entrepreneurial journey.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate you.
Hey, thank you so much, Sanjar. Enjoyed it. Let's talk again, man. You're awesome, and definitely look forward to connecting with you if you get through here.
You got it. Thank you, sir. Bye bye.
All right, have a great one. Bye bye.